Great. Hello, everybody. It's nice to see you all. We're really glad you're able to join us at the Southern California chapter webinar. We are delighted today to have two wonderful presenters, Sam Laporto and Megan Greathouse. They both work at Quantech, not in Southern California, but they're honorary Southern Californians for today. And Sam Laporto is a cost analyst with 4 years of DoD cost estimating experience. He has supported multiple ground-based command and control IT systems within the Air Force. He has degrees in finance and information systems and business analytics. And Megan Greathouse has 3.5 years of experience as a senior cost analyst, specializing in cost and data analysis for the Distributed Common Ground Systems program within the Air Force. Megan has a BS in mathematics and a data analytics certification. And now I'll hand the mic to them for their fascinating presentation, Moneyball Metrics, Exploring Power BI through Major League Baseball Player Analysis. Over to you.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Megan, for the introduction. Like they mentioned, my name is Sam Laporto. We're really excited to present today. We appreciate the invitation from SoCal to present today. So I will leave it off to Megan to kick us off.
Hello, good afternoon, or good morning, wherever you may be. I am Megan Greathouse, and we are excited to be presenting here today. To kick us off, we just want to put a footnote that we put this presentation together last year to present at the 2025 Atlanta ICA conference to showcase a new software program utilized within the cost community. And although this may be another software program to understand, we find that this one is a potential game changer. And I like to think of it as being called up from the minors to the majors. So the big question we want to answer here is, has enterprise access to Power BI changed how we as cost analysts do our jobs? In this presentation, we'd like to end with saying yes to that. Power BI lets us visualize data, spot trends, and tell compelling stories with the information provided to us. Today, we are going to be exploring some of the innovative ways we can leverage Power BI's capabilities within our program offices. The big ideas are going to be interactive dashboards, real-time data updates, and the ability to drill down into the nitty-gritty. To make things a little more interesting, we have taken our swing at analyzing some raw MLB player contracts, salaries, and performance data. This data provides a relatable and engaging way to demonstrate how we can apply similar analytical techniques to defense acquisition. You can think of it as Moneyball for missiles. Please note today's focus will be on showcasing just Power BI's functionality and potential rather than just showcasing a how-to tutorial. So our roadmap today for Power BI, we will start with the what is Power BI and take a quick look at how it has been used historically within our local cost community. Then we'll dive into the meat and potatoes, exploring the various ways Power BI can be vital to our work. And then with potential for cost estimation and analysis to include how to analyze contract data and make smarter data selections for our estimates, to examining how Power BI can be used for historical contract cost analysis and performance metrics. You can think of it as our Power BI playbook. We will also explore on how Power BI can streamline contract tracking, giving us a clearer picture. And finally, because no tool is perfect, we will wrap up with our wins and woes of Power BI. So, what is Power BI? Essentially, it is a Microsoft's powerhouse for business intelligence and data visualization. Think of it as a supercharged combination of Excel, data analysis tools, and stunning visualizations all rolled in one. Power BI's real magic lies in its core capabilities. It is a master connector, a seamless integration with everything from your trusty Excel spreadsheets and databases to even cloud platforms like Azure and AWS. Of course, it plays nicely with other Microsoft products as well, like Teams and SharePoint. A few things to touch on with our graphic. For our core capabilities, we have data transformation. It is essential even if your data is a messy jumble. Power BI has a built-in tool to help clean up that messy data and get it ready to analyze. The Power Query Editor is a tool even for those who are not coding wizards. We also have data visualization, and that's our real showstopper with Power BI. It creates dynamic and interactive visuals like charts, graphs, maps, and more. And with the addition of slicers, filters, and drill down features, you can really explore your data in ways you never thought of. And for those of you who want to dive deep into Power BI's advanced capabilities, there's machine learning and AI tools that can also uncover hidden trends and patterns. Ultimately, Power BI offers flexibility options. Sharing your insight is a breeze, and being able to easily share dashboards and reports with your colleagues and stakeholders, as well as fostering data-driven decision-making across your organizations, transforming data into actionable insight. So, taking a quick journey through the evolution of Power BI. Back in 2010, Power BI, then known as Project Crescent, began its development. And in 2011, Project Crescent was released and came out as a set of powerful Excel add-ins: Power Pivot, Power View, and Power Query. These were the building blocks of what would become Power BI. Then in 2015, Power BI was then released to the public as a standalone product. And this is what we know now as Power BI Desktop, Power BI Service, and Power BI Mobile. It continued to become a game changer in 2016 with AI and machine learning integration with continuous Microsoft integration. It became an even more integral part of their ecosystem. In 2017, the Department of Defense received its enterprise access, and after some time, the news of Power BI trickled down to the front lines. And around 2023, Power BI became widely available to defense acquisition offices. So, what are those impacts of Power BI for us as cost analysts? First, we have transparency. Power BI allows us to move beyond dense spreadsheets and create compelling, easy to understand visuals, making our analysis accessible and impactful regardless of anybody's technical background. Then we have efficiency. Power BI streamlines the often tedious and time-consuming process of data preparation. It allows us as cost analysts to focus on higher-level taskers such as trend analysis, risk identification, and crafting data-driven recommendations. And last, we have flexibility. Power BI offers remarkable flexibility, from tracking program performance over a life cycle to conducting a numerous amount of other cost analysis tasks.
All right. So before diving into our Power BI analysis, we wanted to glance into the cost community's usage of Power BI as it's somewhat new to the DoD. We wanted to try and understand, are analysts using alternatives to deliver that data-backed analysis? And to do this, we surveyed a handful of cost analysts within a wide range of defense acquisition programs. Some of the questions we asked are, what is your experience level with Power BI? How often do you use the application? And if you use the application, what do you use it for? So what we found was that most surveyed analysts have either no experience with the application or have strictly taken, just training courses. That accounts for over 85% of our results here. This even translates to our second pie chart on the right, where we see about 15% of analysts stating that they use Power BI occasionally or frequently. And then of the analysts who use the tool, we see it mostly used for data visualizations and report building. Now, is that lack of use from pre-established tools or methods just being superior to the alternatives? Do analysts just have a tendency to hold on to their old ways? We're not necessarily here to answer these questions today, but it's a good thing to have in the back of your mind as we go through and demonstrate some of the analysis and insight that can be completed through this tool.
All right, so now we're just going to take a quick look at some key features of the Power BI desktop interface. So please note that this is just a generalized overview. So first, we will look at the get data function. This is essential for bringing your external data source into your dashboard. Here you can import data from a variety of sources for analysis, visualization, and reporting. This function acts as a starting point for almost all Power BI projects by connecting to external data, enabling you to pull in databases, files, web services, and other various sources. Next, we will look at the different views we are gifted in the Power BI interface. First, we have the report view. You can think of this as our main stage or your canvas. This is your designated area to drag and drop charts, graphs, and other elements to make your data pop in a meaningful way. Then you have your table or your data view. This is your trusty spreadsheet view. It kind of gives you a peek under the hood to see the raw data that you have pulled into your database, and it's very similar to an Excel view. Then we have your model view. This is your mapping area. This is where you can really connect your dots between your different tables that you have pulled in. So there's no more mixing apples and oranges in our reports. It helps create meaningful reports. And then finally, we have our DAX query view. And for all our Power users, this is where writing formulas to unlock even deeper insights can be shown off. Kind of like your secret decoder ring for data. Next, we'll focus on 3 key areas that give you the power to shape your data and present it effectively. First, you have your filters pane. This is where you can refine your analysis by focusing on specific data points and making it easy to hone in on the information that matters the most for your dashboard. Then you have your visualization pane. This section allows you to choose what visualizations will be best to highlight your data in a compelling way, tailoring the look and feel of your visuals to match your audience and your message. Last, we have our data pane, and this is your foundation of your report, housing all the tables and fields imported from your data source. You can think of it as your data library, where you can select the specific elements that you want to include in your visualizations and analysis. And with these 3 areas working together, you have your filters for focus, your visualizations to illustrate, and your data as the foundation. You have tools to transform raw data into actionable insight.
All right, so kicking off our MLB analysis, to start, we determined a couple different use cases that we felt were relevant to the program office. The first being cost estimation and analysis. As cost analysts, this really is our top priority, right? The next being contract tracking. So using Power BI as a data repository for any past, ongoing, and upcoming contracts within your division. So our approach, instead of using PMO data, we decided to illustrate Power BI's capabilities by looking into MLB data. And why did we choose MLB data? Really just because it allowed us to research an engaging data set while still being able to draw those meaningful connections to PMO applications. Then those actual connections, this is where we bridged that MLB data analysis with our DoD related topics. We did this by establishing the visualizations using the MLB data, and then we drew back to our PMO elements. So at times where we'll reference, the National League and American League, these will translate to our investment and sustainment life cycle phases. Then, where we'll have our MLB teams, these will translate to our program's contracts. And then between the two different use cases we show off here, the connections between the two will be slightly different. And then some program considerations. This analysis will, mostly relate to software and IT related processes, as we are, both. This is our current focus. So we'll touch on that the most and drawing back to an agile development environment. And then a couple other notes to mention. This is MLB data. It is as accurate as of December 2024. So just over a year ago when we put this presentation together. And then there are a couple data inaccuracies for players who played for multiple teams in 2024, but it really doesn't come out too much. Just worth noting. So to start, let's talk about data collection and what we did with the data. So we ended up collecting over 1,600 raw data points, these all being MLB players. We collected player salaries, contract start and end dates, 2024, hitting projections and actuals, and all sorts of other statistics that were widely available to us. Next, we used Power Query to normalize our data, create custom columns and updating formatting. Then we created over 20 relationships between a number of different data tables using Power BI's data modeling. And in the end, we took our data and created reports and visualizations that we could relate back to DoD program offices. So for our first use case, we'll look at cost estimation and analysis. Like I mentioned, this is our number one priority as analysts. And the first part of this analysis will really relate to using actual costs as an estimating methodology. For instance, if you were attempting to use a similar effort as an analogy or estimating a follow-on sustainment effort. So some of the capabilities we'll touch on is data selection for your cost estimates. So selecting an analogy or a known vendor, drilling down from those high-level contract costs to lower-level WBS elements. We'll look at analyzing a past contract over a certain period of performance. And lastly, we'll touch on analyzing those contract actuals and performance metrics. So for our initial analysis of our MLB data set, we created a report to show each MLB team and their total payroll in 2024. On the left, you see each team and the amount they spent on their roster. Above our table of teams, we can filter by each league or specific division. So this will allow us to alter our charts on the right. What our bar chart represents is the average total payroll by position based on the teams selected. So since we currently have the whole MLB selected, this means that on average, teams spent around $70 million on their pitching staff and had a total payroll of $156 million in 2024. Now here we could say select the NL East and see how that division spends on players compared to the rest of the league. So let's look at this report through the perspective of the program office and cost estimating. To do this, we're going to now interpret this report with our PMO related terms. So instead of our MLB teams in the bottom left, we're going to call these our division's past contracts with their actual cost to the right of them. Under our contracts, what used to be positions are now WBS elements with those lower level costs under them. So here we're now filtering by sub efforts and life cycle phases instead of divisions and leagues. So the goal of this report is to select analogous contracts to then create those average actual costs by WBS element that could be then be used for an estimate. So here we've drilled down to focus on 5 contracts based on a specific category of work, and we can call that hardware refreshes. And what we've done is we have multiple avenues to fluidly create and visualize these averages without many steps to go through. So in our next report, we can further analyze a single team or contract. And you can see in the top right, we've selected the Atlanta Braves. And as a note, now that we've seen those MLB and program office connections, we'll just look at this in terms of the program office. So the bulk of this report can be explained in the table in the top right. We have the Braves payroll, or their historical costs over the last 6 years. So with this report, we can visualize where they've spent their money, compare their average spending position by position, as well as analyze how their spending has changed year over year. So say this is a sustainment contract that was moving towards a follow-on effort that needs a cost estimate. We can analyze average costs by WBS elements. We could even create input variables based on future scope and those average costs. And we can even complete a trend analysis of their historicals. So another way that we could even look at this report is by filtering those actual costs by specific WBS elements. So here we can view the relationship between those WBS elements, or in this case, pitching and first base. I like to think of this as if we were comparing, our prime mission product costs compared to, say, our CPM costs. So we can use Power BI's visualizations in support of factor or CER creation. And before moving on, we did want to highlight DAX here. So as Megan mentioned earlier, this is a formula language that's used across multiple Microsoft platforms. So you can really think of this as something like Excel formulas on steroids. It allows you to create custom calculations, new tables, new columns based on your existing data. So for instance, here is a formula that we wrote to create a column that returns the percent change of our actual costs year over year. Okay, so let's dive into some cost and performance metrics. As a part of our analysis, we went ahead and collected statistics like home runs, RBIs, strikeouts, really, a great deal of things that could be transformed into performance metrics. This table here showcases the estimated and actual home runs hit by players in the 2024 season. So we have a range of different Braves players. We'll take Austin Riley, for example. It's estimated to hit 35 home runs but in the end, he hit 16 less, or 46% less. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch things up. We're going to look at this through the lens of an agile software development environment. You'll notice that we have different interpretations for each of our columns in parentheses here. So what once was our MLB team is one of our development teams in our program. And we have here the last 4 program increments completed. And we're now showcasing the planned and actual story points completed during that time frame. So really what this table says now is that the completed story points during program increment 12 was actually 5 less than planned. So it's just a small way of creating quantifiable insights into things like team planning, efficiency, and overall performance. It helps formulate the questions. Did they have scope changes? Were they over optimistic? Did they get better at planning over time? And once again, we just wanted to pause and touch on the actual creation of this table in the last slide. So the columns in the orange circle here were actually derived from 4 separate data tables. Within Power BI, you can create that data model that acts behind the scenes. So here you can build and define those table relationships, which is really what allows for that endless data connectivity. And then we did use DAX again here to create those custom columns on the right based on that data. So the beauty of those model relationships and DAX is that you can connect these key insights like your actual costs and your performance metrics with that ease and fluidity that really is highlighted within Power BI. So the next statistic that we are going to look at is WAR, or wins above replacement. And this stat can get really overcomplicated quickly, so we're just going to try to keep it at a nice high level. But what more WAR does is it measures how many more wins a player contributes than a replacement player. So this value is determined by a player's batting, base running, and fielding statistics. The biggest detail to understand here is that it measures a player's total individual contribution to their team. So the higher the WAR, the higher the value of the player. We wanted to see what happens when we take the average WAR of a team's starting lineup and compare that to the team's total wins in the 2024 season. So interestingly enough, what we found was a positive regression with a correlation coefficient of 0.8. On the right side, we have the Dodgers, who actually led in both categories and then went on to win the World Series. On the other side, we have the White Sox, who were last in both categories and ended up with the MLB record for the most losses in a season. So yes, here we can say that as the average WAR of a team or individual player performance increases, the team's win count will increase as well. And that might be kind of an obvious statement, but really in the end, what this is just a quick and useful way to visualize and compare 2 variables in a data set. Take a sip of water. Okay, so now that we've defined and looked at WAR as a performance metric, we're going to touch on it as a cost metric. So our table on the left here has some of the highest paid players in the league with their WAR from the 2024 season. The rightmost column is their salary per WAR. So what this is a way to evaluate cost efficiency. It determines if a team is getting good value for the cost of their player. So, for example, we have Alex Bregman here, who made $30.5 million that season, had a WAR of 4.1, and that returned a cost per WAR of 7.4 million. Now, on the other side, we have Aaron Judge, who made more than him in that season, but he also produced more and had a higher WAR. So that returned a cost per WAR lower than Alex Bregman at 3.7 million. So while his salary was higher, he produced more and more efficiently for the team. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this again through that agile software lens. Similar to the last time, based on those parentheses, our players will now reference or represent features completed by a development team. And the WAR will represent the size or story points of the feature completed. So here we can visualize the total cost per story point based on the data provided. So this just provides further insight into the size and costs of features being developed by our development teams. And lastly, you can take these data points and you can create those insights through a range of charts like this histogram here. What this histogram is doing is it's showcasing and determining the typical WAR of a set of players, or in our agile terms, the size distribution of our past features worked on.
All right, so we're going to try and do a diving catch into our use case number 2, contract tracking. So keeping track of contracts, especially in complex programs, can sometimes feel like herding a kindergarten class. Because of this, we explored a solution using Power BI to bring some order to the chaos, or at least to the contract tracking process. Essentially, it is all about leveraging the idea of schedule analysis to make sure everything aligns with our program office timelines and milestones. So what does that mean in practical terms? Well, with this gain and enhanced contract tracking, we have a new ability of seeing into the future. We can proactively track contract expirations and anticipate those follow-on requirements without a sense of urgency. This helps us assess support needs and align with program schedules. We can see what's coming and plan accordingly, confirming program timelines and ensure the availability of resources based on those schedules. The real engine behind all of this is the power of Power BI. First, smart data selection. This allows us to make informed decisions by analyzing historical schedules, checking out similar projects or project analogies, and even tapping into vendor information. It is all about having the right information at our fingertips. Then we have the drill down functions, essentially being able to get into the nitty-gritty of the details of specific schedule impacts. Finally, being able to have ongoing contract monitoring, having real-time accuracy, and a system that helps us up to date on the status of our contracts. So with all of that, I'd like to show an example of how Power BI can help us with managing multiple program tracking. Each program is like a team striving for a championship, successful program execution. Each contract within the program is a player on the roster, or your deliverables. Power BI becomes your playbook, helping you track contract progress and make sure your team is positioned for success. So let's say you're managing multiple major programs. Each program has multiple contracts with varying deadlines, budgets, and interdependencies. Being able to personalize your dashboard with various tables, charts, and like mine, a slicer, you can make the interactive tool your vision for leadership guide into your program's progress. Instead of getting lost in endless spreadsheets, Power BI's interactive Gantt chart allows you to visualize your multiple program timelines side by side. It also gives you the ability to compare apples to apples, ensuring alignment with overall program goals. So now let's say you'd like to focus on one program with its various contracts. So here we have drilled down to our one program, the 2021 World Series champs, the Braves. I like to think of Alex Anthopoulos as my program manager. With this dashboard, we have discussed our player salaries to their wars, all in one place. Alongside it is our contract durations. Now swap out your players for contracts and positions for appropriations, and you have translated into the world of the program office. Just like a general manager needs to assemble a winning team within a specified budget or estimate, you need to also manage contracts effectively to deliver your program on time. With Power BI, it empowers you to make those strategic decisions with data-driven confidence. So we can take it a step further and get a little more granular. Here we have focused on a specific color of money, or in our case, our outfield lineup. With Power BI, we can drill down into those details with just a few clicks. Now we are seeing contract information and even how appropriations are allocated. And I noticed something interesting. It looks like a key contract is expiring soon, and their performance justifies a hefty new deal. We could even justify an opportunity to restructure a contract to better align with the contract's needs and budgets. The drill down capability is a game changer. So with all this, you can quickly identify the need for follow-on contracts, justify budget requests, and even provide leadership with the data they need to make informed decisions. All of this in a streamlined, effective way. Within the program office, this translates faster with more strategic decision-making and being able to instantly assess the performance of specific contracts within a program, identify gaps and risks, and proactively address them. With Power BI, this gives you the right information at your fingertips. And with that, Sam and I came up with a few wins and woes of Power BI. And Power BI really delivers significant wins in several key areas to us. First, our input variable selection. This empowered us to tailor our data collection to our specific needs. When you combine that with streamlined data collection and visualization options, we were really able to generate some compelling reports and a pretty compelling dashboard. These insights in turn showed us that we could have better decision analysis and more effective strategies within the program office. And then Power BI scalability ensured that it could grow with us with accommodation to increase data volumes, and it evolved quickly. And I think we can really attest to the amount of data that it could hold from what Sam pulled into this dashboard. And it's also very user-friendly. It has a user-friendly interface, and its interaction within the Microsoft ecosystem also allowed for streamlined adoption and fostered a lot of collaboration.
Yeah, so some woes, some negatives that came up throughout working on this dashboard. The first one were file location issues. So we brought in a great deal of data into our Power BI file. When you're importing all of those files, we were running into issues when all of those files, those names were changing and those connections were breaking. When Megan and I were passing this file back and forth with each other, every time we opened up that file, there was some error popping up because of Power BI not being able to find the file. Just file naming, file locations. It's not that biggest of a Power BI problem, but just something we ran into that we thought was worth noting. Kind of leeways into error mitigation in Power Query and DAX. I think a lot of programming applications are similar to this, but we ran into just constant errors, small errors too, that would just stop the whole entire application from running. So when you go to refresh Power BI, it refreshes everything. It refreshes all of your data models, the files that are connected to the application, all of your DAX formulas that you wrote. And it was just a big old pain in the butt when it came to mitigating errors and keeping the file clean. And then the last thing, not the biggest Power BI issue, but nothing is going to fix poor data collection, right? This is primarily a great data visualization and data analysis tool. Now you need that data to get to starting in Power BI, and that's a really hard thing to say, especially in our industry. Something that we struggle with a lot is that data collection, actually starting off and having good, clean data to, really dive into. But once you have that good, clean data, this application rocks. It's great. But yeah, I mean, I think that's everything from us. I know I see some questions in the chat that we can probably run through. So yeah, thank you. Megan Jones, how do you want me to do questions? You want me to just read the chat and go off this? Do you want people to go off microphone? How
Why
do you want
don't we got about 15 minutes? There's a couple of questions. Why don't you just go ahead and go through them? If you're comfortable with that, that's fine. You don't need to hear from me.
Okay, great. So I can do that. I'll just go from top to bottom. Patrick asked, does it connect with MS Project? Yeah, Power BI does connect with Project. It's not something that we're super familiar with. We don't use Project a lot, but I know you can. They are integratable. Something that's really nice with Power BI is there are a whole bunch of third-party charts and visualizations that you can actually download off of the Power BI website, the Microsoft website. So like that Gantt chart that Megan showed at the end there, she just pulled off that. So there's probably good visualizations for Project.
I can answer the next one, Sam.
Okay, yeah.
Did you learn Power BI strictly by working with it and using any help features, or did you take training? So me personally, I took a Power BI class when I was getting my data analytics certification. So I had that opportunity. But when we first started working on this, I had let Sam know that there were a lot of free online trainings that you could take. I'm not sure if Sam took advantage of those, but I know I had a lot of hands-on learning just because of that. As a refresh, I took one of those as well. So it's just like anything, the more you use it, the better you get with it. So the more you can understand and use those free online trainings, the better. And those would be my recommended uses as well for new users. And there's always people out there for help and questions as well.
Yeah. Also, to add on that, I did take a course. I'm trying to remember the name of it.
Allison.
Was it Allison?
The Allison? Mm-hmm.
I think it
That's
was.
The one that I sent you. Yeah.
So I might be able to provide a link or the actual website to Lisa after this. Maybe she can send something out to people who are interested. I also might be able to just find it really quickly. But I won't spend too much time on that. It was free. It had downloadable exercises that
Mhm.
you could take from the website, work on by yourself in Power BI. It had videos that went through the examples, the solutions. It was great, and it went through high level things like how to use DAX and uh, how to use certain filters and this and that. It was a great starting piece to this. Yeah, it was called Allison.com. I'll just give something to Lisa after this, though, anyways. Okay.
I think the next question is also from Lisa, and I think you could probably hit on that one.
Yeah, so do you think variation in individual wars on a team may have an impact? So if the high average war is due to a few strong players versus many different players. Yeah, totally. I mean, I bet that the Yankees had a inflated war because of that Aaron Judge 10.8. What I put together right there wasn't weighted or anything, but that's a great, when it comes to building a weighted average instead of just using that those blanket wars, probably influenced it a little bit, but for that quick visualization, it's just nice and easy to show that positive regression between the two. But yeah, I would say it probably had a reason to do with that. And I think the only other question is a link to the trainings, which we can provide after this. So unless anyone doesn't have any questions, thank you very much.
Well done,
Thank you.
everybody. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks to Sam and Megan and to Lisa for bringing us this great presentation. This one and many other like it will be airing live in Norfolk this May. So if this is the kind of stuff you like to see, you should come on over to the East Coast and join us. There's going to be plenty of sessions on AI, Power BI, plenty more from Quantech. So we hope to see all of you there. Thanks, everyone. Any final last words from Megan, Sam, or Lisa before I call it?
I just want to
I'm all
thank.
set.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I just want to thank Sam and Megan, and you other Megan too. I think it was a great presentation, really useful to me, definitely very useful. And I really thought it was interesting too. So thanks again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, guys.